we're diving into a massive archaeological cold case. And honestly, it's going to challenge absolutely everything we assume about ancient indigenous engineering. When we think of incredible ancient architecture, our minds usually jump straight to the Great Pyramids or Stonehenge, right? We just marvel at the sheer size of those things. But indigenous people right here in North America were absolute magicians of architecture. Long before modern cranes, engines, or, well, even metal tools existed on the continent, they pulled off feats that literally continue to baffle engineers today.
Okay, let's jump into this astounding puzzle right off the bat. I want you to imagine needing to move a massive tree trunk weighing 11,000 pounds. To put that into perspective, that is the equivalent weight of 2 fully loaded modern pickup trucks. Now imagine having to transport that colossal weight over 110 miles. And here's the real kicker. You've got to do it without wheels, without draft animals like horses or oxen, and with 0 engines. Sounds utterly impossible, doesn't it?
Section 1. The ancient metropolis of Cahokia, the scene of the feat.
To really wrap our heads around this, we need to travel back 900 years to the banks of the Mississippi River, right near where modern-day St. Louis is. This land was home to Cahokia, and it's so important to realize this wasn't just some modest settlement or a tiny village. No, it was a sprawling, incredibly sophisticated metropolis. It boasted tens of thousands of residents, complete with these grand plazas and massive ceremonial structures. In fact, Cahokia stood proudly as the absolute largest city north of Mexico at the time. It was this bustling hub of culture, trade, and just astonishing ambition. Right at the very center of Cahokia was Monk's Mound. Now, this wasn't just a natural hill. It was an earthen pyramid built entirely by hand. The Cahokians used millions, literally millions, of woven baskets to carry and pack soil and clay. Eventually, they raised a platform that stood taller than a modern 10-story building. Think about that for a second. When a civilization can construct something of that sheer magnitude entirely by hand, you quickly realize they had a profound understanding of labor, logistics, and physics. And their ingenuity didn't stop there. They also used towering wooden posts, some as tall as modern houses, to create what archaeologists now call woodhenges. These weren't just decorative poles either. They were complex ancient observatories. By arranging these monumental posts in massive circles, they could track exactly where the sun rose and set. This allowed them to calculate the equinoxes, map out the longest and shortest days of the year, and perfectly sync their seasonal farming calendars and ceremonies with the sun. Pretty brilliant, right?
So that brings us to Section 2, the 11,000-pound mystery. Let's look at the subject and the puzzle.
Now, among all those giant calendar posts, there was one piece of wood that completely broke the pattern. We call it the Mitchell log. Unlike the others, this was a solitary, colossal, bald cypress trunk that researchers believe stood completely alone in the main ceremonial plaza. It measured nearly 59 feet long and weighed in at a staggering 11,000 pounds. Again, just picture trying to move 2 Ford F-150s or Chevy Silverados all at once in one rigid, awkward piece. It's a logistical nightmare.
So why go to all this trouble for just one log? Well, researchers believe it acted as an axis mundi, basically a world pole. You see, to the Cahokians, the universe was layered. You had the upper world, which was home to the sun, moon, and the forces of weather. Then there was the middle world, where we live alongside the bears and the buffalo. And finally, the lower world, a watery realm of chaos, spirits, and transformation. This massive log likely served as a powerful spiritual needle, essentially meant to stitch together these 3 distinct layers of their universe, allowing spiritual power to flow between them.
So here is the crucial point, and honestly, a seemingly impossible dilemma. The spiritual significance of this log was obviously immense, but there was a massive physical problem. Bald cypress trees simply did not grow anywhere near Cahokia. The tree was decidedly not local. And as we've already established, there were absolutely no modern transport tools in North America yet. No carts, no metal tools, no beast of burden. So, how in the world did they do it?
Section 3. Overland or by river? Let's investigate the methods.
So how was this massive undertaking actually pulled off? Well, archaeologists basically have 2 leading theories. Theory 1 relies on sheer brute force, dragging the log over land. This would involve hundreds of people pulling this massive weight step by step through dense forests and wetlands for over 100 miles. They'd be using ropes, wooden rollers, and building makeshift bridges along the way. Theory 2, on the other hand, requires some out-of-the-box thinking. The river. This involves utilizing the vast Mississippi River system, maybe hollowing out smaller logs or bundling reeds to create buoyant rafts, and essentially letting the water carry the immense weight while a smaller team steers the trunk downstream.
Now, floating might initially sound like the easy way out, right? But taking the river meant battling intense natural hazards. The Mississippi is notoriously dangerous. It is packed with shifting sandbars that change daily, hidden snags just beneath the murky surface, and incredibly powerful, unpredictable currents. If they miscalculated the timing or, the river's mood, a logjam could mean the total loss of the metro log. That would be years of planning, completely destroyed. It required an absolute masterful understanding of the waterways. Which brings us to Section 4, Tree Rings and Solar Storms. Welcome to the Forensics Lab.
Okay, you might be wondering, how do we even know this log traveled so far in the first place? For that, we turn to some cutting-edge modern forensics, strontium isotope analysis. Strontium is a natural element found in soil, and different regions have totally unique mixes of it. As a tree grows, it soaks up that strontium from the earth, basically locking a distinct chemical fingerprint deep inside its wood. By analyzing the Mitchell log, scientists could perfectly match its chemical signature to soil samples found 110 miles south, right near the modern border of Illinois and Arkansas. The evidence is absolutely undeniable. It came from a southern swamp.
And to figure out exactly when this incredible journey happened, scientists used a frankly unbelievable method involving ancient tree rings and cosmic events. Get this. 9 centuries ago, a massive solar storm sent a huge burst of radiation toward Earth. This radiation slightly altered our atmosphere, and every living plant at the time absorbed it. The trees alive during that storm recorded a very distinct chemical spike in a single tree ring. This functions exactly like an irrefutable cosmic timestamp. Because scientists know exactly which historical year that solar storm hit, they simply found the spiked ring inside the Mitchell log and counted the subsequent rings growing outward. Through this, they pinpointed the precise year the tree was chopped down, 1124 CE. Boom. Mystery dated. And what's really incredible about this technique is that it's actually a global standard. The exact same method of tracking cosmic ray spikes dated an ancient cedar in Japan to 774 CE. It definitively proved that Vikings reached Newfoundland in North America exactly in the year 1021 CE. And now, it has perfectly dated our Mitchell log mystery to 1124 CE. It's like a giant puzzle, and the pieces are falling right into place.
Finally, Section 5, the genius of ancient engineering. The verdict. Looking back at this entire endeavor, it really shifts our perspective on innovation. We so often fall into the trap of thinking that true architectural genius requires heavy machinery, advanced blueprints, or, complex calculus. But the Cahokians remind us that sometimes brilliant engineering is about practical math and intimately mastering the natural world around you. Whether it was the currents of the Mississippi or the friction of the forest floor, they didn't try to conquer nature with machines. They learned how to work with nature, harnessing its forces instead of fighting against it.
Which brings us to the ultimate question. Knowing the incredible capabilities of the Cahokians, I'll leave you with this provocative thought to ponder. What is your verdict? Do you believe it was the sheer unified willpower of hundreds of people hauling an 11,000-pound log over 100 miles of rough land? Or do you think they expertly navigated the deadly, treacherous currents of the Mississippi River to float it home? Either way, it is a staggering display of indigenous engineering that solved the 11,000-pound mystery.